Okay, we've been closely following the City of Portland's contentious budget process, and this week, after days of marathon debates, councilors reached a major milestone by approving a balanced budget. But the process exposed sharp divisions inside City Hall. Today, I sat down with one longtime Portland City Councilor to get an inside look at what appears to be a growing divide in City Hall. Councilor Dan Ryan represents much of North Portland, and he's served on City Council since 2020, first as a commissioner under the old form of government, and now as a City Councilor under Portland's new structure. And one of the biggest battles during this year's budget process was over the Portland Police Bureau, which still could face about $18 million in cuts. Well, Councilor Ryan pushed to restore some of that funding. And today he told me he worries some councilors aren't hearing what voters are saying about public safety. Here's part of our conversation. Councilor Dan Ryan, thanks for joining us today on the eve, if you will, of the Rose Festival kicking off this weekend.
Yeah.
You brought a beautiful rose
right from my
for
garden.
our table. It smells
really
so good. It does smell so good. I can smell it from here.
Yeah, happy Rose Festival.
Thank you. Okay, so it was a marathon week at City Hall, roughly 30 hours of debate over 3 days, but you all finally got there, approving a balanced budget. But you know, there were some tense moments along the way. Several councilors accused one another of grandstanding or performing during debate. From your perspective, what was really happening on the dais?
People were performing for their amendments, and so that's politics. It happened a few times. I just knew what my compass was on what my standards were to get to a yes or to say no. Mm-hmm. So it was it's just what it's like. I think you're just seeing a real split on the council, more so even than last year. So the Peacock Coalition is alive and well, and they were really organized and coordinated, and they voted as a block, all but I think 2 times. So there's not a lot of ways for the Democratic independents to get in there sometimes.
And it's also an election year for half the council. How much do you think politics and the pressure of re-election has shaped the tone and behavior that we saw this week?
Well, election cycles are challenging in general because I think what I've noticed in my experience now 6 years is that the off years, it's easier, I think, to work together as a team than during the silly season, which is election season.
Do you think there's a growing disconnect between conversations that are happening inside City Hall and then what Portlanders are experiencing day to day?
Yeah, I actually do. I experience that more than ever. Inside City Hall with this current council, the amount of political industry people that are on the second floor constantly talking to council offices is so much higher than it was in the last council. But when I go out and what I hear from them is like a bubble compared to what I hear when I'm out on the streets talking to neighbors, talking to small businesses, talking to, you know, second generation Portlanders that are trying to hang in there and are challenged with how expensive it is to live here and how they just want the basic services to work again. So I'm experiencing that disconnect like never before.
And the deadline is somewhat fast approaching to approve a final budget. Do you think it's likely that you can and other councilors can work to restore those deep cuts to Portland Police? I think they're facing some $18 million in cuts.
Well, you gotta always have hope, and you always have to be an optimist in this line of work. So I'm hoping that those that have been voting in a block no on everything to do with police would start to understand. So I just think we're sometimes not connecting the dots between the importance of public safety and some of the initiatives that have helped us in the humanitarian crisis to clean up our public right-of-way. That is key for us to move forward as a city right now.
If this budget goes through as is with no changes to the Portland Police Bureau budget, what sort of message does that send to Portlanders?
Portlanders want that type of response. They want that type of service from our public servants that are in public safety. So I think we're out of touch with the Portlanders on that one.
We saw repeated 6-6 splits on major votes throughout the week. Is the ideological divide on council making it harder for the city to move forward and make changes?
Well, we're currently at a deadlock. I think the fact that the mayor can't break ties on amendments during budget was a read I didn't agree with from our attorney. That said, this is what we're dealing with. And I'm actually happy that the 6 of us who aren't the socialists on the council came together and for the most part blocked a lot of the most devastating cuts to public safety.
Okay, the budget now goes through legal review, and council can make further changes ahead of the final vote in June. And some tell me they're already looking into how they can restore money for the police bureau. And if you're wondering what is behind the major deficit and all of these cuts, well, that stems from years of lagging revenues and rising costs. But we want to hear from you. What do you think about the divide on city council? Did anything that you hear tonight stand out to you? Let us know. Email the story at kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090.